Well, it's now 5 o'clock, so it is time to start our webinar. I see people are still joining, but while people are joining us, you can still keep saying where you're coming from. Thank you so much for joining once more. And let's have a look at today's agenda and also a few housekeeping rules. So this webinar is set for 1 hour, and you will hear about inspiring projects, or actually learning scenarios that were designed in the context of Carbonate project, which I will introduce in a minute. I will also introduce you in a minute all our speakers who we have the pleasure to have with us today. And I hope that you will enjoy as much as we did preparing this webinar. So the Carbonate project, sorry, actually some housekeeping before. All microphones and cameras have been disabled. So in case you want to comment on something or ask questions to our speakers, please use the chat. We will be paying attention to our chat, of course, and we will address all your questions at the end of the webinar. Okay, so please feel free to react, to comment, to ask questions, and we will be more than happy to answer all your questions at the end of the webinar. As you saw, we will have 4 presentations. So even if you have a particular question regarding a specific presentation, please just write on the chat, this question is for this speaker, and we will be addressing those questions at the end. Now, the Carbonate project. The Carbonate project is actually a 3-year Erasmus Plus project funded by the European Commission and coordinated by European Schoolnet. I am Ruth Batista, and I have the pleasure to be the project manager of this project. We do have 4 partners, and the first one, as I said already, the coordinator, European Schoolnet. We also have the Institute of Geophysics from the Polish Academy of Sciences in Poland. And we have also the Gothenburg region in Sweden and the Center for the Promotion of Science in Serbia. All partners are working equally in the development of this project, and its objectives are to promote the knowledge of climate change and sustainability actions, to support the development of teaching and learning sustainability competencies, encourage the schools and teachers in Europe to embrace the climate change and sustainability challenges in their education activities at all levels, also gather and organize information on any initiatives underway in schools, both primary and secondary level, regarding climate change, and contribute to STEM attractiveness in schools. All of this fostering pedagogical methodologies that facilitate the teaching of life sciences, such as IBS. And you will hear a lot of other methodologies today through the examples that we bring here to this webinar. How are we doing all of this? How are we achieving these objectives? Well, there are 3 phases in the Carbonate project. The first phase is the foundational phase, where we actually created a curriculum analysis, and this is actually public. You can have access to it. Then there's also a piloting phase where we are actually at the end of this phase, where we created learning scenarios. All partners were involved in this creation process, and the result of this creation process is exactly this webinar. So you will hear about the learning scenarios that we created and also the methodologies that were used. And there's also the deployment phase, which we already started, which is the MOOC. And some of you are here as part of the MOOC, participants of the MOOC. If you actually were not aware that we developed a MOOC on this topic, you are still on time to join, and please let us know, and we will put on the chat the link to join the MOOC. We will actually develop also some expert videos. Some are already available in the MOOC, some will be available later on. We will also be part of the Scientix competition in 2025. And at the end of this project, we will draft a best practice report. So there's a lot coming out of this project, and we are very excited with the development the developments that we have done until now. Now, I actually missed one slide here, but that's fine. So with no further ado, let's give an introduction from our speakers. Our first speaker will be Henrik from Sweden. And in his role, he focuses on pedagogical development, the creation of learning resources, and spearheading school innovation projects. I will give him the floor in a minute. Just to introduce also Marta. Marta Zvedo is a passionate science teacher with 28 years of experience. She's also a Scientix ambassador. Maybe some of you are also Scientix ambassadors. And she's experienced in organizing science fairs for her educational community and many other things, many other aspects. We also have Madeleine from Serbia. And he serves as also Science Club and Makers Lab coordinator, and also expert and Scientix ambassador, expert for STEM school label as well. So a lot of experience in this area. And last but not least, we have Katarzyna from Poland, a strong advocate for climate education. Teaching children about climate change is one of her strong beliefs. And I'm sure they have plenty to share with us. So I think I'm done with my speech. Just to mention that also here in this webinar, we have Georgia, who's the MOOC moderator, and she also was part of the piloting phase, one of the teachers that created the learning scenarios, and she's here to support us with the question and answers. And well, with no further ado, I'll give the floor now to Henrik. So Henrik, please, the floor is yours, and you can take control of the slides.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be here to be able to talk about scenario-based and interdisciplinary learning in teaching about climate change. And I will give a brief introduction about the Gothenburg region in Sweden. We consist of 13 municipalities who have chosen to work together. And we run development projects, we have government assignments, we conduct research, and we organize courses and learning for 13 municipalities in the western Sweden. And my role in this organization is that I work as a development leader at the Department of Education. And there I work a lot with, as you said, I'm doing pedagogical resources. I do a lot of teacher training, and I also talk a lot about gamification and stuff, because I used to be a former art and media teacher, so that is my background. I'm not a climate teacher or science teacher, but I worked a lot with art and media and creativity. And I have a lot of experience in game-based learning, scenarios, role-playing, makerspace, and digital design. And today, my presentation will be about scenario-based and interdisciplinary learning. So a bit of an overview about what we mean with those concepts. So I'm going to talk about the what, why, and how you can do this, the examples from Carbon Act, the scenarios from Carbon Act, and I will also, of course, touch on benefits and also challenges of this. So, if we start with the what is scenario-based learning? And you can say this is an educational approach that integrates real-world scenarios with knowledge from multiple disciplines to enhance student learning. So what we mean is this is like we can use real-world examples when teaching about different subjects. So one example could also be you could use role-playing as maybe role-playing the Security Council of the UN or something like that to deeper focus on the students' learning. And what we do when we do this is that we engage in realistic situations that require problem solving, critical thinking, and decision making. So we put the students in real-world problems to be able to deepen our learning. And why is this good? Because it places, as we said, students in real life scenarios, making the learning practical and more relevant, because they will choose or work with different problems that really matter for themselves or society. And the real world problem is we usually find that it takes knowledge from different areas of expertise. So this makes it really good for interdisciplinary teaching because you can work with different subjects and on the same problem, because real world problems as we know it rarely fit into just one discipline. And I think it's a great way for students to really learn about this and take action and help each other from different perspectives. So doing this, it requires students to think critically, make decisions, and solve complex problems from reality or realistic context. And also then sharing knowledge from different skills to solve multifactorial problems. So this also could be a good way for students to show their own skills in different ways, working on the same problem. And it creates a more holistic learning experience, leading to better long-term retention and understanding about the subjects that are included in the teaching. And I'm going to give a short example because, as I said, I'm a former art and media teacher. I also used to work in arts and craft and a bit of technology. And one of my project when I used to be a teacher was that we worked a lot in the interdisciplinary subjects or on themes at the school. So one theme was that the language teacher at the school wanted the kids to write a short story about an animal, a Swedish animal. And I said, let's do something about with that case as well. We could develop the story. So we decided to let the students code a simple game from their story, because this was also a good way of learning to code and program. So we took the story and we made a simple game with code. Uh, of course, when you do a simple game, you have to do some graphics. So it was excellent to use this example in the art subject. So the students got to draw or make digital graphics for the game. And of course, we could use this in the craft subject as well, because we could build controllers to play the game. So we could use like different technologies to build a controller with wood or fabric or something like that. And looking back to this, you could see the interdisciplinary theme of this. So when we're writing the story, we work with Swedish language and a bit of science and geography, where were the animals placed and stuff like that. But we also used technology subject for learning to code and program, so we could check a box in that. We went to the art room and created graphics, and then we worked with craft to build controllers and things to play the game. So this was an example of doing it from the story, the Swedish subjects, just to write a story about an animal and how that could be a bigger project. And looking into the Carbon Act scenarios, we can see a lot of these scenario based on how they could be interdisciplinary and work with real world problems. So I've taken an example now from the Carbon Act project, which is biodiversity and climate change, from Anneli Engdervik here in Sweden, who wrote a scenario for students in grades 1 to 3 with foundational understanding of climate change and biodiversity. And this is also a way to foster the sense of responsibility towards sustainable living. And what this scenario is about is that the students will watch educational films about climate change and biodiversity. They will create factual texts about endangered species, and they then will create hands-on projects where they engage with local communities to construct birdhouse. So from learning about climate change and biodiversity, they need also to work with real world problems or real world organizations to be able to construct stuff that helps them. So we could see almost immediately that this project is set in a real world. We have to contact real world organizations, talk to them about endangered species and stuff like that, but also then work to do something about it. So we could see that this scenario is based on nature-oriented subjects, society-oriented subjects, and also arts and crafts. So you could also use it as an arts and craft project. And I could also see it working as a language project because you have to contact someone like organizations. Maybe you have to write an email or call them or stuff like that. So you could make this even bigger. This also then fosters a lot of the 21st century skills, as you can see, the critical thinking and problem solving. How will we build the birdhouses? How will we contact organizations? How can we work together to do this? The creativity and innovation is perfect for this because maybe you have to work in innovative ways to create these birdhouses, or maybe the students will find new things to create by doing this. Maybe they will want to build something else instead. Collaboration, of course, both within the classroom with students, but also with organizations to call them and feel that we're contributing to this real world problem with biodiversity. And as I said, communication is a big part of this. Just how to contact an organization. That's really important stuff to learn. And the social responsibility and citizenship. So basing on this very good scenario about how to do this, you can learn a lot of stuff. But of course, working with these scenarios and interdisciplinary teaching and real world problems takes a lot of challenges as well. It's not super easy. And I think the first problem or challenge, not problem, I will talk about is the planning part, because this is time intensive and it takes coordination. If you're going to work on your schools together with a lot of teachers, you have to have time to meet and discuss and how should we put up this project or this scenario together. The resources could be hard to find. We maybe need to find subject experts or materials or simulations. Talking about doing a role-playing game or something like that takes a lot of expertise. So in that sense, the Carbon Act project is really good because now you have a lot of scenarios to work with. And the assessment could also be a bit tricky because evaluation of problem solving and cross-disciplinary skills is not super easy. So again, it might take some times and evaluation together with the teachers at the school. And it could face a challenge with student adaptation because cognitive overload and less structured approach might be a problem, because it might be a problem to understand why are we doing this and how can I get graded for this and stuff like that. So here it takes a lot of clarity from teachers to really clarify how we're going to evaluate and assess these kind of learning scenarios. And for me, if you haven't worked in this way and want to start and like pull all the teachers together at the school and let's start working scenario based and interdisciplinary, I would like share my best practice or recommendation, and that is to start simple with small projects. Use the Carbon Act scenarios as a really good start because you could draw from them. Put up the clear objectives for both teachers and students. Collaborate the planning and see which which teacher will do what and stuff like that. And be flexible in the assessments. So you can use the 21st century skills and stuff like that and see how can we assess the students, and also be very clear with the students and how you will assess them. And I think that's my overview of scenario-based learning and interdisciplinary teaching. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Eric, for sharing all of this knowledge. I think it will be a little bit more clear once we dive into examples of learning scenarios. And therefore, I would like to give now the floor to our second speaker, which is Marta Azevedo. Thank you for raising your hand. Please write any question that you may have on the chat. Marta, you can take control of the slides and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ruth, and welcome to all the participants. In the next 8-10 minutes, I'm going to present the learning scenario that I designed and developed with my students, and it was peer-reviewed. So as Ruth said, together for the climate, reducing CO2, shaping the future. But first, I'd like you to wait. Oh, yeah, here's the one. That's mine. Okay. But first, I'd like to do a little exercise with you all. Can I? So you're watching this webinar on your computer or mobile phone, right? So what I want you to do is look at your computer or your mobile phone. Are you looking? Okay. When you bought it, you certainly thought about its autonomy, its memory capacity, its visual appearance, maybe the costs. Okay. What I'd like you to do is think about where it came from. Okay? Not the factory, but where it came from. Okay, I'll explain better. Where did the screen come from? What raw material was needed to build it? Sand? Okay. And the coating? Maybe clay and the battery? Silicon? A common chemical element found in sand. So, whoa, your computer or mobile phone came mainly from beaches. What I've just done with you is the first part of my learning scenario. So the learning scenario has three main activities, which I've labeled engage, what I try to do with you, think, and explore. Unfortunately, I don't have pictures of it. I didn't think to take any photos. So you have to try this scenario with your students to see and feel their engage. I began by explaining to the students the activity we're going to do, posing a driving question, the main question of a PBL unit that guides students through the PBL process. Why do we need Earth? It's provocative, it's open-ended, it's simple. Then I show it a video to engage the students. One Earth. It has strong images, thriller music, and is short. We don't need long videos. Students don't like long videos. In the second part, think, I formed groups of 4-5 people. It depends on the size of your team. Then I distributed white cards to each group. On each card, the groups should write one thing that they need to live. For example, clothes, okay? They should then stick the cards on a board. Then I distributed green cards. On each card, the groups should write where they can get the raw materials from the earth to fulfill the needs they found earlier. For example, for clothes, maybe they need plants, they need animals. They should then stick the cards around the white ones. So we have a white one, and then we should have green cards. Now I distributed 4 yellow cards. Each group should identify the 4 things that are most repeated on the green cards and write them on the yellow ones. Okay? The yellow cards would now be placed on a main board. From here, I started a discussion about the consequence of overuse on the environment. I focused on responses that lead to increased CO2 productions. Finally, on a big red card, I wrote the biggest consequence of human needs: increase CO2 production and place it in the center of the board. We now have a room with very colorful pictures. The students were deep in thought, so I showed another short, impactful video to summarize the ideas. You can do this activity using Padlet or Linwatt. Is less prejudicial to the ambient, but with the cards we have visual impact, and then we can use it in another way for the entire school, for instance. We now move on to hands-on activities. It's the explore part. Basically, the students start by producing CO2. It's relatively simple. All you have to do is mix vinegar with bicarbonate of soda and collect the gas produced in balloons. As I tried to show you in this picture, that is not mine, unfortunately. The CO2 will then be poured into bottles prepared in advance with a thermometer and placed in the sun or lit with lamps if you don't have sun. Other bottles would be in the same conditions, but open, with no balloons with CO2. The aim was to measure the variation in the temperature to see what effect the increase in CO2 had on the atmosphere. CO2, which in the previous part of the learning scenario was a consequence of the human activity, the red card. Well, with these activities, this learning scenario, I was able to get students understand the concept of climate change, understand the consequence of increasing CO2, identify the impacts of human activities on Earth. There is also, in my learning scenario, if you try, which I advise you to try, there's another explore, where students take action, where they think what can they do to reduce emissions of CO2. With these activities, this learning scenario, so I was able to get students engaged, and I must emphasize that the engagements of the students was remarkable. They showed genuine interest in the proposed activities, actively participating in classroom discussions, and showing enthusiasm during practical activities, the hands-on. This created a dynamic and stimulating learning environment. So try this scenario. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marta. There will be opportunity to ask questions to Marta about the application of the learning scenario. I must mention before giving the floor to the next speaker that all of these scenarios will be published in a catalog of learning scenarios. It will come in the next months, and they will also be all available in the Scientix repository of learning scenarios. So you can also find them there. And another example is going to be explained and shared by Mladen, sorry. And Mladen, the floor is yours. You can take control of the slides.
Thank you so much. I hope you can all hear me. Well, as I said, my topic is using the TikTok for the climate education. TikTok can be a little bit of tricky, because it's something new, but you see the idea behind this. So first of all, I would like to say that, like any other teachers, I'm also having a lot of problems in my classroom. For example, I also have, like the other schools, very rigid curriculum that doesn't let me improvise so much. And not even that, not many classes in Serbia are devoted to the climate change. So basically, it's pretty hard to get something that needs to be done in a fast way, because we are all waiting for the Ministry of Education to bring in the new curriculums and that kind of thing. And even that, we don't have many class times for all the activities we plan or all the activities we want to do. Basically, I can say that also we had the trouble with the number of grades that we're supposed to do. So like I said, it's pretty normal, like any other teacher. I also have very much problem in my class. So this is the challenge I like to set to myself. It's how to trick students into learning. Now, I know that some teachers do not like the word trick, but I really like to use it as this is a part of the play. You're imagining something, you're giving the challenge, people are following you, and it's all just with a great and a good intentions. So, what was my solution? It's let's create TikTok videos. Now, TikTok is, how to say, relatively new media. And what I did is I gave my student a task. I want them to create a video that are TikTok related in the TikTok form with the short amount of time and that are also connected to climate change and oxygen. So why would I do that? Why did I want to do this? Well, very simple. First of all, I would split students into groups. Now, I mostly like to let my students choose who they work with because in that way they learn how to use better team working in the future. It's very important with whom you work. How do you choose your partners? It's not just about one person doing all the work. After a lot of time, they will start to choose that group that are more active, friends who can support them actually. Then they choose the topic for the video. And here comes my favorite part, research. Now, this is something you have to do when you're preparing any kind of thing, but also when you're preparing video, you need to do your own research. Look out in media. It's not just look out the internet, see what other people are doing. It's not just about repeating what teacher said in the classroom. It's about finding new ways. And let's not forget also my role in all of this is I am the consultant. When they decide with the topic, when they decide with the idea, they actually send me, they propose scenarios, ideas, they are actually consulting. Am I saying, okay, this can be approved. This is actually quite good. And finally, when they're ready, they're film and edit video. And this is something like you say, they are much, much better than me. They know what is fun. They know how to do the videos and they're actually preparing. And of course, the best and the best part of all is the premiere night when we gather all around and we watch each other videos. Now, here are some of the rules I must say to the all teachers who are on. We don't publish videos. Now, we use the TikTok form, like a portrait instead of landscape. We also use all the, how to say, visual effects it provides. It can give you a lot of tools to use in a classroom, but privacy is also a big thing and it must be available. So the students who do not want to publish, they don't have to. They just prepare the video and they bring it to classroom. No one is allowed to see it outside of it. And when I'm grading those videos, I'm also taking into account how much scientific accurate video is. Because let's face it, this is a science, and when you're presenting something, it must be accurate and at the same time not be boring. So the two things that are sometimes pretty hard to combine for some of them, and for some of them are actually pretty much easy, but it is something that I'm also pretty keen on. When we create video, it must be true. It must pass all the fact checking you mentioned. It also teaches students how to do more valuable research. So when I think about what are the good things that came from this, I have to say that students actually get to be creative. They're actually working together, and sometimes I'm even surprised by some of the things they're showed or that they discover in all this. I'm actually learning from them some new ideas and some, in not many ways, it's not, it doesn't happen too much, but it's pretty much, pleasant to be surprised in the classroom. And also I can grade them easily because this is the homework, this is the project-based learning, it's all the elements needed. And finally, this is the fun way to do a research. I can actually say that to myself, I'm actually enjoying this. And actually what I did was, even before of this, when I started using it, I would give a test 1 week later than the premiere night and see what do they remember from the videos they, and I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with all the details they remember from the movies. If I were to do the talking for 45 minutes, they would not remember that much. But this is something that needs to be researched more. Now, I want to say that it is all good and all flowers. I want to show you that there are some cons as well. It's not easy to understand well enough to make it short. This is something that some students try to do. They send me videos that are 5 minutes long. This is too much. I want videos to be a minute and a half. Very simple reason. I want them to learn, to find what are the crucial details, and then show them in the videos. So this is actually my trick of doing this idea. Find what is important. Also, some students try to hide behind other students' work. So one person is doing a one-man show, to say. And of course, let's not forget that some students think this would take less time than it actually would. But trust me, after 2-3 times, they realize the mistake and they are ready. So our section idea included the so-called EACEA TV. It's a new TikTok challenge video that a channel that's actually preparing for the setting up videos, and we decided to include everything. I split my students into 6 groups. They created the 6 videos, and some of the results actually included some of the experiments that are actually sometimes, it's pretty impressive because I didn't stand behind the experiments. They decided to do them themselves. They explored, they prepared materials. It's great, And with that, I would like to conclude my part of the presentation. Thank you all for the listening.
Thank you so much. We will go back to you because there's already one question. So thank you. And with no further ado, I'll give the floor now to our next speaker, Katarzyna. She's also going to present her scenario, maybe in a different perspective, right, Katarzyna? You can take the control and the floor is yours.
I'm trying to take control, but I don't see the possibility.
Should be on the top bar.
Okay, there it is. Thank you. So I don't know. Okay. Psychological aspects of climate education. We had a few ideas about the project, but we decided to see if kids are aware and can imagine the world of tomorrow if we won't take any action to take care of climate. The idea was to give them a little knowledge of climate change symptoms based on a given article, spark a discussion about the topic, and stimulate their imagination, giving them crayons. So I love to talk about what I did, and I love to show as many photos as I can. So this is my 4th grade of last year. The students were given an article. They were given a QR code, and they were reading an article about climate change in groups on their phones. These are girls from 5th grade. Then they list the most important changes from their perspective from the article, and they wrote it on adhesive notes and put it on the whiteboard. 4th grade again. Then we had a discussion, and the very important element of this process was to encourage students to share their personal experience and emotion related to the information from the articles, and to help them notice the avalanche of consequences. For example, like reducing arable lands cause fewer food products, and that causes the increase of the prices of the products. And on the other lesson, they had to create an artwork. So they were given a sheet like this, and they had to draw the world of 2023, so like they were seeing it in real time, and then the world of 2050. So it was supposed to look like predictions from the article they read, and it wasn't very like pink glasses world. And I did it in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So I would call 4th graders as aware, 5th graders as energetic, and 6th graders as sensitive ones. So the students from 4th grade, they are very aware of climate change symptoms. They have knowledge how to try to prevent it, or at least stop it. They needed more time to read the article, and they really enjoyed reading it in groups. They had a lot to say about their own experience. For example, that their houses used to be on an empty plot. They had a forest nearby or a meadow, and now they have only houses and garages of other people's because they were built in the last 2-3 years. And they were very upset and sorry for replacing the semi-wild ecosystems with all those houses. They were also talking a lot about light pollution, so that they cannot longer see the stars in the sky so well at night as they were 3-4 years ago. And children of this age have a great need to share their knowledge. My role was mainly to organize the discussion and help organize their reports into categories like on the whiteboard, like pleasures that will no longer be available, or impact on plants or animals, or extreme weather conditions. And you can see some pictures they made here. 5th graders are very energetic. The discussion between children started while reading the articles, and they had the most dramatic experiences related to climate change, especially critical weather conditions. There were stories about garages swept away by the hurricane, destroyed trampolines, soffit torn off the roof, broken trees, and damaged cars and fences. They were very excited by the number and convergence of their observations. In one of the artworks. And the 6th graders, they are the sensible ones. They were the oldest, and it was the hardest to do this project in this class. We have a lot of very sensitive kids there with great imaginations, and some diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. I was the one who had to read the article for them. I had to skip some dramatic parts like extreme weather conditions, and I had to stop at most paragraphs to talk about them as we went through them. Those children reacted very emotionally. A few of them cried even. They found the news about climate change terrifying and sad, even though they were the oldest ones. The discussion focused on what we can do to simply live smarter and better. We also talked a lot about actions and commitments we can take together. For example, they said we can use only reusable water bottles or decrease over consumptions by stopping buying on some platforms as Temu or AliExpress and whatever. And you can see here a few artworks. So like it was very emotional for them, and I had to make one adaptation of the scenario here, because to the more sensitive kids, I told them that they don't have to draw anything that was connected to the article. They can draw the world of 2050 as they want it to be. So like no extreme weather conditions and no catastrophes and no whatsoever. But we had an agreement that they have to write 2 or 3 commitments they will take to protect the environment. So they can draw, like, you know, the world of 2050 as they want it to be, but they have to agree on some commitments they will take so that can happen. And the summary. Unfavorable changes taking place in the environment are a difficult topic. It requires really great sensitivity of the teacher, knowledge of the class, and modification during classes. All of the artworks were surprisingly similar. And the conclusions of students in classes were identical. Everyone left with the belief that the big change is the sum of small changes they can make, and with the resolution to talk to their parents about what else they can do in home surroundings and life to help. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katarzyna. And actually, now is the moment for you to ask the questions that you would like to all our speakers. I would like to invite all our speakers to open their cameras because there's already one question for everyone asking how many lessons actually took the development of your, or the application of your learning scenario. So I don't know who wants to go first. Maybe Enric, do you have an idea of how many
Ruth?
days? Yes.
Yes, the question was for Madeleine for the TikTok, but I think that everyone could answer and remember us the age of their students.
Yes, there was one first question asking
Yes.
the number of lessons for every speaker, and then
Yes.
for Madeleine the age level. Yes, but maybe you can all refer quickly these elements for your presentations. Enric, maybe you can start. We go in the same order that you presented.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
How much time took to implement the scenarios? So how many lessons?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I have to say that I haven't used the scenario myself. Just talked about like the concept of scenario-based learning. But I mean, the example I had with using it with the story in arts and crafts took maybe 4 or 5 weeks. You can do it how big you want. That's the nice things with scenario-based learning, I think, because together with your teacher gang, you could decide how big will this be. Should we do it bigger or smaller? So I think it's very good that way.
Indeed. That's the richness of the learning scenarios that we can adapt as to our reality,
exactly.
And our context as well. Marta, how much time took your?
So it took me about 3 hours, 4 hours, 1 hour previous to prepare everything, all the cards. And my students, so my learning scenario is designed for 15, 17 years old students. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Mladen?
Well, it took me one class to explain them what are we going to do, and then it took me one class more to repeat to them again, explain them what we're going to do, and then some consultation that are mostly done after the classes and online or at home. And finally, the premiere, it also took 1 hour as well. So I can say that even if for the activity itself, it took like 1 month. It only took 3 classes to finish.
Great. Katarzyna?
So it was one lesson, 45 minutes for reading and discussion, and the other and the second lesson for summary and artwork. So 2 lessons, 90 minutes.
Okay, what was the level? Oh, you already mentioned in the presentation. Sorry.
10 to 12-year-olds.
Yes, 10 to 12. Yes, indeed.
So younger kids.
Yes. Georgia, is there any other question on the chat for us?
In the chat, yes, but from Bekta, but Madeleine has already answered. The question was about for which grade did you run the TikTok videos? So it was from 6th grade and above. 6th grade is about 12 years old, yes? 11 to 12 years old. So in many countries in Europe, they had to already to be 12 years old to have account on social media. But I don't know if TikTok allows educational accounts. I don't know this. No, it was their own accounts, yes?
Maybe, Madeleine, can you give more
Just a second.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm not sure that TikTok allows. It's very hard to even search for the things on the TikTok, and it has very strange algorithm. So basically, I only use the good side of the TikTok. That it is short, it is effective, and I'm, like I said, we don't publish videos on the TikTok. We are just using the form that TikTok present. This is actually the mainstream for the younger generation, and this is not my kind of aesthetic. I was born with the YouTube, so later, because it's a landscape, and when I go to movies, I like to see them in the landscape and everything, and I like them to be like at least an hour and a half long, so I know why I'm buying the ticket. But the kids today are just kind of different. They're more fast. They're demanding the faster pace of the things, and I think it's if we cannot change something, let's use it as our tactic in the education. So, to short answer, there are no educational videos and account on the TikTok. However, there are some pretty beautiful channels that are dedicated to science, Veritasium, and all others. And they're rather pretty. I watched some amazing explanation of quantum mechanics that made me like change some of the things I'm teaching in the classroom. Basically, you can use a lot of good stuff if you just, but you have to filter it a lot.
Yes, thank you. Everyone, it's a great idea. I love this idea. I love this approach about TikTok, and it really speaks to the heart of our students. But just we have to be careful about the age that they are allowed to have an email, a personal email for this. Just this, but it's a very great idea. And
if
students,
I can add something. Yeah. Some of them actually used IE to create voice over, and some of them use the other channels to create like cartoons. So it's actually can give you, and some of them are actually just filming experiments instead of. You do not need to show yourself in the video. It has to be very comfortable with you. So basically, I'm taking you. It's a good point that you mentioned.
It's a really good approach to use the application that the students already use in their everyday life, but to see that it's a tool to make something new. Diamadis asked if you can share a TikTok video made by your students to have a better understanding of what they created.
Well, like I said, we don't publish videos.
Yes.
I can show you some of the screenshots. There is one video that's actually used the cartoon. The boy who made it actually drew picture by picture and used the really beautiful. It's on Serbian, unfortunately. But like I said, I would really need to ask them for permission to show their videos, and then if they allow it, I might be able to show you. But basically, it's like that there are different kind of videos, there are different kind of approaches you can do. So what I think that's a good example might not be the same example your students might like. It's a different approach for everybody. So let's be creative, let's try to be unique, let's do something that are we comfortable with and that is actually good and aesthetic and easy.
Great. Georgia,
Okay.
is there any other question?
In the chat, no, but we had some questions in the Padlet.
Okay. Okay.
Mostly, some of the questions are addressed some concern about how to teach complex matters like climate change in preschool children, in kindergarten. So there is a concern about the teachers, how they can explain climate change and make it more concrete and connected to everyday life, for example.
Okay, great. Who wants to address this question? Does anyone would like to address it?
I can share what I do.
Yeah,
Okay.
Marta, go ahead.
My students, they have 17, 18 years old, and I'm used to prepare, they are used to prepare science fairs, science festivals to preschool. So the bigger ones can explain to the preschooler students, and hands-on is usually the best thing that works better. Okay. Showing what happens.
So being very practical and showing things very concretely to them. Yes. George, is there any other question?
Yes.
I think we have time just for one more, okay?
Okay, and the same. Okay, so I will pass the primary schools and preschools. And there is some questions that some teachers feel that they are lying to students by being optimistic, because they know that things aren't so good and that scientists predict something very bad in the future. So trying to teach climate change in an optimistic way, they feel that they are really lying. That was the word, lying to our students.
I think maybe Katarzyna, would you like to address this one? Because I think that's a little bit what you addressed during the implementation of your learning scenario.
Yes, exactly. And don't be afraid, because from my experience, I believe we are all gonna die. So it's, yeah. So from my perspective, we have to do as much as we can to not scare them, but to make them act, to show them that even small actions, but taken every day, they matter. And furthermore, to do it with them, because kids, from my perspective, they really want to do something with us and to do together in groups, in class, and to show other classes what they figure out. So I believe that working together and simply acting is the best answer here, and not to scare them too much, because unfortunately to my 6th grade, that's what happened. So.
Well, those are wonderful thoughts. Thank you so much. Well, we have 2 minutes, actually less than 2 minutes, 1 minute until the end of our webinar. Before I give the floor one last time to our speakers, I would like to remind you that we are currently running a MOOC. Also, as part of this MOOC, there's going to be a Teach Meet where you can also bring your own ideas and present your own ideas about possible learning scenarios. Another reminder that all the learning scenarios that were presented here today are or will be very shortly in the Scientix repository. So you can also find them there and also in the MOOC. So please go there and explore it. And soon enough, also, we will publish a catalog of all the learning scenarios developed during the Carbon Art project. And now to close this session, I would like to give a special thanks to Georgia, who was here with us today as part of the moderation of the MOOC and helped me with the questions. But as a final word, I would like to invite all the speakers to say, how can I say this? A final encouragement to all the teachers that are listening to us. If you can say a few words so that everyone can keep teaching about climate change and don't get discouraged. What would be these final words? Enrique, I will start with you, if that's okay.
Yes, I would like to continue what was said before. Don't be afraid. Keep on teaching and act as good examples, because that's what we want to do. Regarding subjects, we want to make the students or kids become better versions of ourselves. So keep on doing that in every angle, really.
Thank you. Marta, do you have any final encouragement?
Yeah, okay, so don't be afraid. Students are really world shakers, and as someone once said, yes, they can. Okay.
Thank you. Mladen.
Well, I can say that just try to be different from time to time. Do not get into routine. Try to shake things. Some things will be good, sometimes will be bad. It's a life, you know.
Yes, thank you. Katarzyna, would you like to add something more to the final word?
Yes. Don't follow curriculum. Follow your heart, because we all want to eat chocolate in 2050.
Wonderful. Well, with these wonderful words, I would like to thank once more our 4 speakers. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your path through the implementation of these learning scenarios, implementation and creation of these learning scenarios. And I'll see you online somewhere in a MOOC, in a webinar, exchanging more experiences about teaching climate change. Thank you so much and have a wonderful afternoon.